Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Florida housing market and how it's likely about to have a pretty significant correction, if not a crash. We're seeing the number of homes sold decline drastically. Inventory is at the highest it's been in over 5 years and continues to increase all of 2025. Buyer demand has been declining, days on market has been increasing. We're going to take a look at all of that data and kind of get an idea of if a housing crash is actually possible. If you're new here, my name's Ian Phillips. I'm a realtor in Southern California, but I love housing data and I'm uploading weekly, if not daily videos, diving into the housing market, letting people know what's going on and kind of giving my opinion on different areas. So if you like this video, subscribe for more and let's get straight into the data. Okay, so looking at Florida as a whole, you can see the median home value has pretty much done nothing since 2022. House prices are flat, around $400,000 for the median home value. Number of homes sold has been declining year over year, down almost 9%, which is pretty significant considering the amount of inventory that we're seeing increasing for the last few years. We'll get into active listings in a minute and we'll kind of get a look on different cities in Florida and see just how many homes are available for sale. So days on market has also been increasing 12 days year over year. Now we are seeing a slight decline in the days on market, so potentially we are getting a little rise in buyer demand as we approach the second half of 2025. Number of homes sold has kind of been up a little bit, but that's normal for the first half of the year. So potentially we're just seeing a mild increase in buyer demand from the previous month's data. If you're unaware, data in real estate is always a month delayed. So this data we're looking at is going to be for the previous month, and then we'll get second half of the year data later on in the year. But number of homes sold has increased in the first half of the year. And if we look back historically, it does tend to do that. But what's troubling is where this has started to turn around is a little earlier than where it started in 2024 and also in 2023. You can see this is April and it's flat from March, and this is May. So number of homes sold was continuing to increase during this period of time last year, which is a little troubling considering the fact that if you look back at all of these years, number of homes sold drops pretty sharply in the second half of every year. This is 2021 and it just carried on going down. In fact, the number of homes sold in 2021, when it was one of the hottest selling markets in the entire country and in Florida, number of homes sold dropped from a little over 55,000 down to a little over 30,000. So if we're peaking at around 33,000 homes, it's gonna be the most for 2025. We could probably get lower than 20,000 homes sold every single month for the state of Florida, which would be a complete disaster because when you look at the active listings, prices are going to drop substantially. Active listings are up 16% year over year. There are 236,000 homes available for sale in the state of Florida. And in 2022, when kind of the overall market peaked, there was 100,000 homes available for sale. So inventory is up over 130,000 in just 3 years, which is very concerning when we're talking about how low prices could go in the state of Florida. Month supply of inventory has been declining in the first half of this year, but that is very normal. Even looking back to 2025, it was happening as well. So this is kind of telling me that the first half of this year, there are a lot more buyers stepping into the market, but every single time without fail in the second half of every year, month supply of inventory starts to increase. It did it in 2023, it did it in 2022, did it in 2024. So this is likely going to flatten out for the next few months, and it's probably going to make a new line up and get back over 8 months of available supply, which is when prices are going to start declining rapidly, particularly if inventory increases as buyer demand starts to decline, which is what the indicator of month supply of inventory is dictating. Now, how low could home values go in the state of Florida? Well, when we look at the number of homes sold above list price, It's the lowest it's been in 5 years. Only 10% of homes are selling for above list price. And you can see in 2022, there were over 40% of homes selling for above list price. So 90% of homes right now are selling for under list price. Now, the number of homes with a price drop has been increasing, and it's again the highest it's been in 5 years. Roughly 33% of homes are having price reductions. This is going to increase as sellers are still not budging on their home's listing price right now. They're probably going to start cutting prices significantly more in the second half of the year as buyer demand starts to decline. Sale to list price has been very flat. In 2022, homes on average were selling for list price, and now they're selling for almost 4% below list price. But this is going to continue declining in the second half of the year, at least in my opinion, because we're having a record low number of homes selling for above list price. If you think back to 2022, when 40% of homes were selling for above list price, yet on average, homes were selling for list price. So a significant amount of homes were selling for below list price in order to get this average at 100%. And now if you're thinking that 90% of homes are selling for below list price, what do you think this average is going to do? It's going to drop substantially. And that is my concern for home values over the next 2 to 3 years. Remember, house prices don't move immediately. It's not like the stock market where it could drop 5% in a matter of a week. Home values take years to start declining. So we could have a second half of the year correction where values drop 10 to 15%, and then they continue dropping into 2026, especially if we don't get these lower mortgage rates that so many buyers have been waiting for. People have been waiting on the sidelines for 5.5% mortgage rates for the last 2 years, and it's just not happening. We're still at around 7% at the time I'm making this video. Now, keep in mind, in order to get those rate drops that so many buyers are waiting for, we need to see the unemployment rate increasing pretty substantially. And that brings me back to the economic data that is happening in Florida. If we look at the unemployment rate for the state of Florida, it has been increasing all year. Take a look at this, 3.7% unemployment, a total of 410,000 people unemployed. But my concern is that this has been on a pretty steady uptrend for the last 3 years. Now, also keep in mind that this is one of the most delayed statistics in the entire data set of the economy. The unemployment rate starts to increase when people start filing for unemployment and finally get accepted. When you get laid off, you're typically receiving 3 months of salary from your job, and then when you apply for unemployment, it can take 6 to 12 months to finally get on unemployment. So in my opinion, this number is going to continue increasing. Now, will we get back to these levels? I highly doubt it. I don't know if there's going to be a financial crisis. I don't think home values are going to drop 50%. It would have to increase pretty drastically in the state of Florida to get this much of a housing crash like we had in 2008. I personally don't think something like that is possible. I think worst case scenario for home values is a 25 to 30% drop for the entire state of Florida. Now, could sections of that have a little more, a little less? Absolutely. But when we take a look at the data, everything is pointing to a housing correction at the bare minimum. A correction is 15%. A crash would be 30% or more. So could a crash be possible? Potentially, particularly if mortgage rates stay fairly elevated for the next 12 months. It's going to deter a lot of buyers from jumping into the market. And also keep in mind that if all of a sudden mortgage rates start to get into the low fives in a short period of time, it is because something is cracking in the economy, more than likely in the jobs market, where we're seeing mass layoffs, mass unemployment, and the economy is slowing down as a whole. Historically, there is always a recession when unemployment skyrockets, gets above 6, 7, 8%. We are always going to be in a recession. And home values typically do not perform well when we have unemployment skyrocketing, no matter what mortgage rates are doing. If you think back to the financial crisis, which again, I don't think is necessarily possible, but the unemployment rate was absolutely skyrocketing while mortgage rates were declining rapidly. We got down to 3.5–4% mortgage rates before home values started to increase just a little bit, get back to more of a normal market. But while unemployment was skyrocketing, it was buy one, get one free in the housing market. Most places crashed around 50% and foreclosures skyrocketed. We're not seeing that right now, which is why I don't think something like that is necessarily possible. But 15, 20, 25, potentially 30% in the state of Florida, I don't think is out of the question. We're seeing a lot of home builders desperate to sell their homes. We're seeing home builders offer an enormous amount of incentives, dropping prices just to get that home sold and move on to their next project, which in turn will impact existing home sales, because a seller, if they bought their house in 2022, more than likely they're already in the negative territory on what their home is worth. So they're going to have to deal with the fact that depending on what their down payment was, how they're going to get out of that home. I know I'm hearing from some real estate agents who are listing homes right now saying that some sellers need to come out of pocket in order to get their home sold because they have such a little amount of equity relative to what they bought it for. So that is a situation that is absolutely going to impact existing home sales if new builds continue to drop prices and continue to offer an enormous amount of incentives. That is going to impact current homeowners who potentially need to sell within the next year or two. Remember, like I mentioned, real estate corrections are not a fast process. It could take a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years to experience this full correction. Let's take a look at the zoo that is the Florida real estate market, because there are an enormous amount of homes available for sale. Now, I live in a county where active listings are less than 5,000 for the entire county. But when you look at cities in Florida, I mean, in just this area, there's almost 9,000 homes available for sale. So that is something that I am certainly not used to by any means. But as you can see, it is tough as a buyer just to browse through all of these listings available for sale. Now, if we just pull up a few, we can kind of get an idea of, okay, this one has had a price cut already, $24,000 price drop, and it's only been on the market for a month. If we take a look at something over here, 675, oh, this one has also had a price cut. Been on the market for 123 days. I'm assuming multiple price cuts. If we take a look at a few others, let's see if the trend is the same. So this one's only been on the market for 16 days. 1,500 views is quite a lot, likely to sell faster than 92% nearby. Clearly not if it's not in escrow. Now let's take a look at a few other areas on the East Coast. If we go to West Palm Beach over here, we'll pull up some random stuff. So for sale, 650,000, single family home with a pool. On the market for 2 days, 930 views. That's quite a lot, so I would expect that to potentially get into escrow sometime soon. This one, 550,000, 10 days on Zillow. So a lot of these are on the market fairly recently. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, if we're seeing so many homes recently listed, we're probably going to see active listings continue to increase. Here's one, 117 days on Zillow, but only 600 views. That is not a lot. Now, obviously, some of these coastal homes are going to be unbelievably expensive. This one's $7 million. It's dropped its price by $800,000, been on the market for 203 days. Let's look at a couple others. Here's a $10 million home, been on the market for 87 days. That's normal for the luxury market. I mean, typically you're gonna have homes on average over $5 million will more often than not sit on the market for over a year and likely have multiple price reductions. That wasn't happening in 2020, 2021, and part of 2022, but that is more normal right now. So let's take a look at Orlando, a pretty popular market, and you can see just in this small area, there's 4,250 homes available for sale. That is wild. 5 days on Zillow. Let's take a look at a few others. This one's expensive one, 3,150,000. Almost a year on Zillow. Wow. 540,000. This has had a very irrelevant price reduction. I don't even know what the point in doing that is. But a lot of views on Zillow, but still on the market for over 2 months. Something is wrong in the Florida real estate market. All of these homes, some of these homes are having price reductions, some of these homes are on the market for a very, very long time, and yet there's still so many new ones that are hitting the market, only been available for sale for just a few days. So this is 28 days on Zillow, but 2,700 views. That's a lot, but why aren't these homes selling? This is a lot of traction typically that you would get for a home only on the market for a month, yet they're still not getting into escrow. 430,000, 3 days on Zillow, a lot of views. Now we'll have to see if some of these get into escrow. I'm sure you'll get a lot of homes selling over the next 6 months, just not as many as we've seen in the first half of the year. Remember, historically, every single second half of the year, buyer demand declines. So if we're having, 33,000 homes sold every month on average for the first half of this year, that's probably going to decline in the second half. If we take a look at Florida, this one's available for $550,000. It's a showcase. That means they're paying Zillow to advertise it a little more. 23 hours on Zillow, 570 views. So many of these homes are recently hitting the market, which tells me that inventory is probably going to continue increasing. I mean, what the hell is this price drop? $6,000? This is the most irrelevant price drop I've ever seen in my life. Why are so many of these homes having the most minor price reductions? It is so completely irrelevant, in my opinion. 650,000, 4-bed, 3-bath. This is another showcase, so they're paying to advertise it a little more. $25,000 price reduction, that's a little more reasonable. 290 days on Zillow, 2,700 views. So maybe paying for a Zillow showcase doesn't necessarily get your home sold faster than others. But that's kind of a little spotlight as to what's going on with active listings here. Again, I haven't pre-looked at any of these. $40,000 price drop, 550,000, 130 days on Zillow. So there is a good combination of homes that have been on the market for 6+ months and a lot of brand new listings hitting the market, which confirms my opinion that we're going to see more inventory hitting the state of Florida in the second half of this year. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. This was about the state of Florida. I've uploaded one about Texas as well as California, so be sure to check that out. And if you like this video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.